Evening. Welcome to a Mids Watch. Hope you guys are enjoying this one. This one's a bit of a different one. The space has married in the title, married red pill. So if you're married, it's the kind of place to get your red pill male action plan underway within a relationship. But a lot of guys, they're single and the demographics really don't work for them in the main red pill subreddit. Obviously, it's a lot of bravado and just, bro science and crap like that from a lot of people. So they think that for some reason, the older demographic is either going to be easier on them or kinder to them. And we're all running from the same playbook. The only difference is demographics and life position. So they usually get in for a pretty rude awakening. But this guy, the aptly named red-pilled grasshopper. So far, there's no thing that I've seen where guys name themselves after insects, which can tell you something about their field report, so I'll just get into it. He is asking, what law of power do I need to stop being vocal about reading people? And he's like, I have a trait, knowing exactly what somebody is thinking or about to think because I've been quite adept at reading body language and tonality. Read, only child, single mother. Now, could somebody point me to a place where I can start to harness that part of myself? And I'm aware of shutting the hell up, STFU, which would help immensely, though I can't shut it down when people say things that are so blatantly ridiculous, self-serving, and manipulative. I think I've been in the anger phase pretty much the entirety of my life, and I've not come to peace with it yet. This one is kind of neat because it gives you a little insight into some of the people within the red pill. Like, obviously, in my own life, I've had that situation where I think I'm so much better than everybody because I was a smart kid growing up. They did all the gifted people testing and all that stuff. I think I was 3% shy of being the fancy gifted guy, so I'm like the smartest non-gifted guy out there. But that's the problem, is that it puts you in this state of laziness where you start attaching intelligence to your identity. And so if something comes easy, yeah, you'll do it. But as soon as something becomes difficult, and unless you're a brilliant genius, and even then, nothing is going to come instantly, perfectly every time. And so you end up just not doing things because your identity is more important. And it really takes a bit of humble pie. And the military gave that to me. I think I've told the story before where I had this great plan during cleaning stations. That's the part where the junior seamen go and scrub the toilets. And I was like, I could fix this and do this with the patch panel and save you guys a ton of work. And my boss just looked at me. It's like, no, it's 7. And ordinary seamen like you clean the fucking toilets. I don't care. And I was livid. So livid, but I couldn't do anything about it. And eventually he did probably the biggest favor of my life. Like, first off, I got really good at cleaning toilets. But then I kind of realized that intelligence is just a tool. It's not an identity. And it doesn't make you better than anybody. In fact, a lot of the times, looking back, it was like a lot of my failures were based on it. But Jack 10 of Hearts is going to hit on it here. Bit of a different angle because it also hits onto his life. But you'll see when I get into it. And he's like, you know what? I could have written a book about this stuff some 10 years ago. I thought I was a genius. Reading the Cialdini's influence books and other things like micro-expressions and then studies on the birth order and a whole motherload of early 2000s pickup. Like, I pretty much acted like the smartest guy in the room at all times. And if you're one of those guys getting into pickup or the red pill and saying your friends are expressing concern that you've changed, it's possible those friends are plugged in blue pill losers doing the crabs in the bucket thing, or maybe you're just acting like an unbearable douchebag like I was. And it's been a while since I've brushed up on my 48 laws of power, but if you want some tips on how to stop acting like an unbearable douche, I still may be able to help you, so here it goes. So if you spent most of your formative years as a half-autistic social retard, then this skill you have is known as being neurotypical. Now, seriously, it's not some secret power. A lot of our initial social adeptness is probably some combination of genetics and socialization during our formative years. So if you're a half-autistic social retard in your younger years, that trait you're describing is probably just you overcoming that handicap to operate closer to a more neurotypical and well-socialized person. So if you want an analogy, imagine you were born as a paraplegic, but eventually you learned how to walk on crutches. And now you think you're a goddamn superhero because you have metal legs. And you're coming here asking, I can walk really fast. How do I stop bashing people in the shins with my metal legs? It's like, no, asshole, actually, you can't walk incredibly fast. You've just consciously learned how to overcome some combination of your introversion, social anxiety, and general inability to handle nonverbal social cues. But while that just means your crutches may enable you to walk just as fast for a non-handicapped person, you probably still have this awkward crutch-swinging, seesaw, staggering moment which you'll find stumbling into any and all bystanders. You still need a lot more work to do to actually walk as fast and look as natural as a non-handicapped person. Now, parsing nonverbal cues is easy to do if you're watching people behind a double secret-sided mirror. Telling a fun story is also very easy to do if you were recording yourself into a mic. Doing both is the actual challenge. And clearly, you're still struggling because you cannot parse nonverbal cues and regulate your responses. He brings up the part here where the guy's like, I can shut the hell up, which would help a lot, but I can't shut it down when people saying things so blatantly ridiculous and self-serving, it's manipulative. He's like, look, if you've detected a bullshitter, someone who's talking about something you think's exaggerated, inauthentic, or outright false, then you have just admitted you can't flip that Rolodex of social responses fast enough to get to something that will subtly disarm the bullshitter, or maybe egg him on more, or just concede to the bullshitter because it's not important enough to expose him. Your Rolodex spins so slowly that in the few seconds you have to respond to his bullshit, you can only flip to card 1, which is obnoxiously call him or her out and confirm your role as the conversational and social buzzkill with everybody you're with. The only other option you have is not to flip the Rolodex at all, which is to say nothing. And you literally describe this is what you do. I mean, I get it. You see some basic bitch running her mouth off about some basic bitch things, and your mind processes it like this. And he's got an image to it, which is like an old cartoon where it's some girl walking up saying hi. And what the guy sees is like the Egyptian Sphinx with like past my challengers of social interaction. It's fairly cute for a 2000s meme anyway. He's like, yeah, and you're so pleased with yourself, you finally cracked the code, that you can now decipher these tests in your social interactions. And just like the metallic crutches, they're an improvement. Don't get me wrong. But to use, I suppose, the fourth analogy in this comment, crutches, Rolodexes, Sphinx challenges, you view your social life as a test, where the test questions are in French, and now that you've learned French, you can finally decipher the questions, and realize they are questions like, is the intended audience for Shakespeare's Sonnet 18 a man or a woman? And you're tempted to stand up and shout, ah, that's bullshit. The answer is completely subjective. Who cares about Shakespeare? And seriously, is Shakespeare gay now? Is this more gay liberal indoctrination? Yeah, look, this question is BS and the whole test is BS, and I feel it's really important that I make everybody here aware of that fact. Yeah, so don't do that. Don't do that. You have to confirm or conform to the bullshit coming out of everybody's mouth? No. But you know what? Your only option for a nonconformist behavior is not to yell at everybody really loudly about how nonconformist you are. So how about you write an essay about how the answer is both a man and a woman, but only because Sonnet 18 was actually intended for a transgender female otherkin, but that otherkin was actually a transgender male to female elven vampire, so by the transitive property, everything cancels out. This is a really weird reference, by the way, he's making here, but I get it. He's like making a mockery of the thing in his neurotypical way. But this is kind of like, it lets you know Jack was one of those guys, like those socially autistic guys who kind of learned how to be social by the numbers. So it's very interesting then, which gives him a rare insight using his metal crutches to break this stuff down. Anyways, back to it. So that'd be a funny essay, right? Your classmates would think it's funny, and then your teacher would be pissed until she sees your conclusion, where you explain how the essay wasn't intended to make a mockery of her in the test, but to demonstrate how you think Sonnet 18 is a love poem to somebody is missing the point, because it's actually about the fragile brevity of life, which is applicable to everybody, including but not limited to men, women, and, elven vampires. So your essay is both hilarious snark and cleverly insightful, and your teacher gives you an A. Now that she doesn't need to worry about, social justice warriors getting her fired. And this is the point for you guys, the audience here. Swallowing the red pill is not about realizing that the test is bullshit. It's about realizing that everything in life is an open-ended question, even if it looks like it only has multiple choice answers. Let that one sink in. Remember, it's not about realizing that everything is bullshit. It's about finding out that everything is an open-ended question. Like, if you want to watch a comedian that really represents this idea, check out Lewis Black. I mean, you look at it, it's just an angry, grumpy, ranting, this is fucked and bullshit and I hate everything, except for it's fucking funny, dude. Like, and believe it or not, The difference between Lewis Black and some edgelord like Op here, who proudly declares, yeah, I'm an asshole, deal with it, is more than the t-shirt. Or to put it another way, I find it hilarious when red-pilled aware guys try to extend the dichotomy of alpha and beta with hilarious bullshit like sigma males. And this is why whenever I read somebody on Married Red Pill saying, I consider myself more of a sigma than an alpha, I just read that as, I consider myself to be someone who has minimal social skills because of a limited ability to overcome my introversion. Sure, there's fictional characters portrayed as badass sigmas like Judd Nelson's Bender in The Breakfast Club or Guilfoyle on the TV show Silicon Valley, but you know, they're fictional. And actually, now that I took a break to watch the clips, Bender's actually a whiny bitch, which actually explains why, if memory serves me right, the girl he ends up with is a sexually promiscuous, compulsive liar who gives him a hickey, makes him wear one of the earrings at the end of his movie, and will probably fuck Emilio Estevez next week anyway. So this whole, I don't give a fuck what people think about me, I just speak my mind, and if they have a problem with it, they can go fuck themselves, that's gonna pay limited dividends. Especially because you probably just don't give a fuck by default, because as I mentioned earlier, your social intelligence is probably still too slow to respond with anything else anyway. Now contrast that with the comedian, with the Lewis Black, who represents this don't give a fuck, but clearly he must care because he's trying to sell tickets to his comedy shows. And that's why he's writing a hilarious essay on, elven vampires while you're back in detention for the next 7 Saturdays with a faded hickey on your neck. And this time you don't even have Anthony Michael Hall to write your essay for you. That's a lot of Breakfast Club references. It's something, and like I'm pausing on this one here, it's something important, and I wish I could get this thought through to a lot more guys. I don't know if you've been following it, but yeah, it's like guys are socially stunted, man. And I know there's a lot of common like threads within the Red Pill, like it's a single mom, so they never had a chance to go play with friends because she was a helicopter parent, and that may be true, it may not be true, but guys are just socially retarded. And I don't mean that as an insult, I mean like literally insufficiently socialized to be developed properly. And there's a lot of guys who develop the skill outside of like a neurotypical way, like paint by numbers. A good example is Modern Life John, his body language mastery course. There's a guy who doesn't know how to read body language by like trusting his instincts and like learning it over time. He actually has to like in his head keep these ideas together. The problem is it makes it very hard for you to adapt to changes in your environment. Same reason why, like somebody who's learning, for example, when I learned French as an adult, I never was able to think in French or dream in French, which is one of those like levels of comprehension. So I'm always having to listen to somebody talk and then translate it in my head. So I'll never be able to speak as fast as like a fast speaking French person. And that's just one of those things. And you can work around it. You can get really good at translating. But your failures always come out when these fast things come. So for a lot of these guys that think they're very intelligent, they can read people, they know all about hypergamy, they've read 3 Rollo articles, they know what they're doing, just be aware. You're probably making yourself the most insufferable person in the room. And knowing about the rules of the game doesn't mean you're good at playing them. Like there is no excuse for just rock solid experience. And one of the biggest tells when you get a guy who's, as I jokingly call it, red pill aware, is that he loves to talk about the rules and his only response to things is to call it out with like a snarky teenager voice and add a huh at the end of it. And I'm sorry, if you can't think of 5,000 examples of it from like a limited time on Twitter or any red pill space, then I don't know what to tell you because it's common as fuck. Anyways, back to the field report here. Jack's like, look, man, if you're sort of irritated because some random guy just took a drive-by shit on you, like some internet tough guy, well, just remember in the beginning, I had the same problem years ago. The issue is, people aren't mentally equipped for the new sexual marketplace. And my friends brought me down several pegs using a lot of the same language that I just wrote here. Although he's taking credit for the elven vampires. And honestly, it wasn't even so much that I processed what they said, but I felt something that I hadn't felt in a while, which was humility. Humility. I didn't actually know all the answers because I sort of did care that I was gradually acting more and more socially repulsive. So I was finally honest with myself about that. And the reason why a modest amount of humility is so important is because once you've accepted you're not perfect, once you're accepting that you're not better than everybody else, that means there's nothing stopping you from trying to be perfect, which means you're lucky to be on this endless journey of self-improvement. And just think about that. However badass you are, it's always possible to be potentially more badass. Saying, I'm not perfect, becomes very optimistic. Because another way of saying I'll be close to perfect tomorrow than I am today, and then the next day and after that. And Jack would write more, but he's veering dangerously close into narcissism and self-righteous Matthew McConaughey optimism, so. Realize, for a lot of guys, your anger is fueled by entitlement, an idea that you deserve more than these idiots or these basic bitches or whomever else you supposedly read so easy. You consider yourself better than them, and yet they have the audacity to spew so much bullshit that they simply assume you'll accept. Where do they get the fucking nerve, right? Well, you're gonna show them. There's that revenge fantasy. I really need to do another video on this one, but it's on how revenge fantasies are like holding you back. Just for this one, take it as a leap of faith until you watch that video once I get it out. But as I'm sure you sort of logically comprehend but haven't emotionally internalized, it doesn't work that way. So this idea of humility is also powerful because beyond fueling a motivation for continuous improvement, it also ensures that you'll stop thinking you're entitled to everything. You're not entitled to shit. Why would you be? Why are you so much better than everybody else that what you've experienced was unfair? Like whatever led you to believe that, it was wrong. And it's okay. You can be frustrated for a while that you were told otherwise. You can get mad that you were told you're a unique and special snowflake if you took the multiple choice test and wrote CAB, DAD all the way down, and now you're here at the red pill being told, nope, it's not how it works. Think you fucked it up, you were all misled, and you're angry, sure, be angry. But you know what? That doesn't change anything. Being unfairly misled, you're still not entitled to anything. This is why so many cancer survivors, after an extended emotional roller coaster, always come out the other side as the most optimistic motherfuckers ever. He makes a reference to about some Ask Me Anything guy, about a guy who's missing like 9 bones in his hand, his legs cut short, and he's like joining a rock band, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, so assuming your anger is fueled by things like a general resentment of being misled on gender roles, or the idea that your personal virtue would also be sexually attractive, just learn to get over it. Is that really that hard for you too? And then he throws them out some things. So he's like, all right, so laws of power, 12, 18, 21, 32, 38, and 44. Which, pulling those up here, law 12, use selective honesty to disarm your victim. Makes sense. It's kind of like a nice way of, shut the hell up unless you have something good to say. 18, isolation is dangerous. Just because you think you're better than everybody else, there's nothing good about isolating yourself because you think you're the king shit. 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker. Law 32, play to people's fantasies. Again, sometimes just taking an interest in people and making them think they're the most special person in the world plays up to their fantasy. They may be boring, but it's always better to have somebody who thinks well of you than somebody who thinks you're a prick. And then Law 38, which is probably the married red pill absolute favorite one. It comes up all the time. Think as you like, but behave like others. And then Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. Mirroring people, anybody here who's dealt with body language know about the mirroring thing. So that's the single guy's red pill journey, which I kind of enjoy it because this is a call out a lot of guys need. I think most functional adults at some point have been fed that humble pie when they think they're on top of the world and then somebody showed them what was up. And it's always somebody who they considered stupid that put them in their place too. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of those guys anymore. Like there's no longer the drill instructor that shuts down your college educated nonsense, or a teacher who actually challenges you, a big brother who had no problem beating you up when you tried to prove how smart you were. Heck, even a dad to do whatever, spank you when you start talking smart. Guys don't have role models anywhere, and so unfortunately you just have to learn it yourself. And the closest you're going to get to a father figure teaching you this lesson at this point is a girl calling you creepy, saying to get the hell away from her, and saying, no, I'm not going to touch your dick. So take that for what it's worth. Enjoy yourself on this one, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers.